What's up, Cigar Club family? Welcome back to another episode of the Cigar Club podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in and leaving your thoughts and feedback on each episode. If this is your first time joining us, the Cigar Club podcast is where we talk about all things cigars with you, the Cigar Club family. On today's episode, I have a very special guest on to talk about a brand new cigar that he just released. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Welcome, Vlad, to the Cigar Club podcast, our number one guest. You've been on more than anyone else has, so thank you for returning and joining us today. But we're going to be talking about the latest SOMM release, Rioja, and we're both smoking it. I've got the Toro, and I think you've got the Toro
I got
as
the Toro
well.
as well. I'm more shocked that you guys have had me so many times and you're still around. So,
well,
testament to your guys' persistence.
I think every episode that you have been on has been one of our most popular episodes. Everyone loves the knowledge that you have, but more so the approachability to that knowledge that you're able to convey in a very comfortable manner. Like, you don't make people feel dumb or silly for not knowing certain things. You have a really great presentation to the knowledge that you have. So I think that's probably why those episodes are always the most popular that you're on.
I never really thought about it, but I'll definitely take it. So thank you guys for
absolutely.
support and, tuning in. That's really the key. Also, I ended up, oh, Jesus, I ended up getting
Don't
like
die
3
on us now.
puffs. Yeah, that's the praise that killed it. That's it. That's the the straw that broke the camel's back. Jesus, I lit up a cigar and ended up having like 3 puffs end up straight in my face. It's good to be back here, especially with. Should I announce what you guys are doing with the Rioja, or should we keep them guessing?
Please. Yeah, no, go ahead.
So
We're going to be.
Go
ahead.
Ended up trying the 5x54 Robusto. I did blend these 2 differently, and specifically to size. The 5x54 Robusto is going to have a ton more sweetness to it. And again, the blends are completely identical. It's just that size difference really plays a very, very important part. And if you smoke them side by side, or even if you smoke them, within a day or 2 of each other, you'll definitely pick up the difference. So the Robusto is going to have much more upfront sweetness in the first third, then go back into spiciness and like baking spices and then hazelnuts, creaminess again. But that spiciness will dominate the second half rather than the Toro, compared to the Toro, which is basically going to have a lot more spiciness up front.
Yeah.
In the first, I just realized this hat's a little tight, and I'm like, my brain is swelling.
We don't need the. I gave you a compliment. The head's getting a little big now.
That's exactly what happened. You gave me a compliment, and like the head started swelling, and like there we go. But yeah, as far as the Rioja, so this is made at Eladio Diaz's factory in the Dominican Republic. The blend is almost a study in Dominican terroir. Terroir being the sense of place where it basically grows, and it's not really just where it grows, because in the wine world, when you say terroir, it really encompasses everything, right? Not just soil, not just like where it grows, but the overall, right? So the number of sun hours you get, the amount of rain, the soil component, the positioning, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so this is really my interpretation of what Dominican Republic tastes like, with obviously a little twist. The name Rioja refers to the Spanish wine region of Rioja, being a region that's really near and dear to my heart, and the Flamingo agrees with me.
Yes.
Really, where you get a ton of phenomenal, super high quality wines for a price that doesn't really break the bank. But again, they have such an incredible consistency of character. Each winery has a different signature depending on what they're doing, and then of course then you get into the vintage variations. So
and so just a quick breakdown, we've got Dominican Corojo wrapper that's been aged for 3 years, Sumatran binder that has been aged for 3 years, and then Dominican
it's actually Mexican Sumatra.
Mexican Sumatra.
Very, very fun, very, very fun little experiment there.
I was going to say, you don't normally see, normally it's Indonesian Sumatra, correct?
Exactly. So this is something unique. And then the fillers, there's 4 different Dominican fillers from 3 to 4 years of age. I've been asked not to disclose one of them, so we'll just leave it as There's 2
Dominican.
Criollos and a Havana in there, and we'll just leave it at that. And the 4th one is from 2019 from a single farm, something really, really interesting.
So, I've never heard of Mexican Sumatra. Can you kind of explain a little bit of that varietal and maybe how it differs from Indonesian Sumatra, if it does significantly at all?
I gotta be honest, my real experience here is kind of smoking them side by side. Sumatra, to me, almost always, if it's not properly, and I'm gonna assume this comes from fermentation, if you don't treat it properly, you're gonna put this almost like soapy aftertaste in there. I'm gonna assign that to fermentation rather than anything else. But as far as why Indonesian Sumatra seeds were brought over to Mexico, I have no idea. I'm assuming it's the Tourette family that grows it. Something very interesting. I believe the first time I've had it, or at least that it was kind of highlighted, was Casa 1910, right? Manolo and the guys. He would probably be a better person to kind of ask about it, just because my knowledge of that is limited, and I'll speak to things that I'm aware of. This is just, I don't know, like, I've tasted great. We played around with it.
It worked in it, yeah. Hey, that's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And just for everyone, I had to bring out my favorite. Brought out the Madeira. We've got Vlad the SOMM on. I'm bringing out Madeira. Got the New York Malmsey, which is
you got that from
almost finished up.
Rare Wine Company.
Sure did. I've got a bottle of George Washington that I haven't opened yet, but this one's about here. So I love Madeira,
and it's
talk about it often. It is. This bottle's been open for surprisingly 5 or 6 years now. It's not going to go bad, and I absolutely love it.
It's so funny. It really is, because it is legitimately indestructible. Basically, in the production of the wine, everything that could go wrong and typically, damage from a flavor standpoint, or a palate perception, I guess. For the wine, Madeira has already gone through it, and it is part of the production process, so basically indestructible. It's got high alcohol. Depending on the style, it's either going to have a lot of sugar or high acidity. It's already been exposed to oxygen. It's been exposed to high heat, so you're in for a treat.
I mean, it's just absolutely dark, figgy deliciousness, and it's one of my favorite pairings. It's not something that I go to often, but I something about it, the high sugar on it, I think balances out most cigars and doesn't overpower it, and just offers characteristics that I think work with a lot of the cigars that I had. I had a nice Italian dinner before this, so I was like, you know what? Let's bring out some Madeira. It's late, and it works well with you being the SOMM guy.
What'd you have for dinner?
We had tortellini and nice. A little kale pesto. So
nice. That actually sounds really, really good. Ooh, now you're making me hungry.
Well, yeah, it's what your actual dinner time right now, though.
It's my time, so I
appreciate you skipping dinner.
You know what? There you go.
So I do have a couple questions. Obviously, we're going to be bringing in it's the Rioja, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. We're going to be bringing in the Rioja in March boxes. So this will come out before March, but we're going to be bringing in that Robusto size in March, which I'm super pumped about. I remember you sent me, and I believe it was the test blend for this, several. I mean, it almost may have been 8 or 9 months ago. Smoked it. I think you sent me 3. I smoked all 3, like back to back to back. Fell in love with it, and I knew you had your next hit on hand. But I kind of want to just kind of dissect. How did your approach to your now second blend differ from maybe the first time around? Were you
it's kind of inferred with the same thing. The questions are always going to be the same. Do you have something old, interesting, unique, or rare? Right, and I'll just go from there. I'll pick what's going to be the star of the blend and try to blend around it. This actually needed a little bit of help, and they've asked me not to disclose what that help is, at least like in this format. Like if we were doing an in-person thing, which I'm sure we can just jump on a Zoom or something, as long as it's not recorded, I can kind of give the secret.
You can't give away the entire the secret sauce has to remain secret.
The real trick was I wanted to get a little bit more sweetness out of it, which is a lot more apparent in the Robusto, without changing anything to and doing anything to the blend, right? And I needed the expertise of someone who's, been making cigars for 50 plus years. So,
Yep.
And actually listened. I know that was, I kind of had to go away against my dogmatic state here and saying like, no, I don't really believe that's the case. Like I've never had it. And then, Manny, his son just said, brother, try it. I was like, all right.
It's funny you say that though, because I picture you as being a really good student. Like I don't picture
you. Think they're
you
the smartest guy in the room. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me listen. Let me see what people do. I mean, no different than the Honduran broadleaf, and I think we talked about that with the BDX.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't know how many people use it in blends. It's a very distinctive tobacco. Like if I smoked enough cigars that highlight that, say that they use it, I could probably pick it up very easily. There's 3 blends that I know of currently that use that. I think the BDX format, the BDX blend rather, highlights it the most. And this isn't, to say it's better or worse than any of them. It's just a different approach. I've certainly enjoyed the other 2 blends that have it, and I don't necessarily think, I walked away with those like, wow, that's a great cigar. It's just, I don't think that was the focal point, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can use it as something that's complementary to the other tobacco, or it could be the standing point and everything else is complementing it. It's just the approach that you take to it. And I know with that one you smoked and you're like, this is the highlight that I want in this cigar as people smoke and
because what else am I going to highlight in that blend, right? So it's San Andreas and Viso Jalapa, like, oh my God, this is going to blow so many people's minds. Like it's San Andreas, like we've never had it before. But yeah, no, that was a fun little experience. And you're right. Thank you for that reminder. You were the first person actually to try that test blend aside from me.
Oh, I did not. I knew I was one of the few, but I didn't know I was the first.
One of the few. I think
that's an honor.
I think you know what? You might have been the either first or second. Shar was the second one from En Fuego in Vegas, and he smoked it, and he was like,
"Yeah."
I'm like, "All right, cool. That means something."
I remember smoking it. We hopped on a call, and you kind of went through some of the box work and kind of the vision that you had behind everything, and man, smoking it, I was completely on board. I'll be completely honest though. This is the first time I've smoked it banded. I've been waiting for this moment. I've had the Toro. I went out and bought it so I could have it for this, and so
should have told me I would have sent a few.
No. I am a cigar consumer first, and I support the brands, the people, and the companies that I like. So I had no worries about any of that. But I want to give a little update here, and this will be a really, like I planned it, segue. Right off the bat, immediately, I'm a couple inches in here. Baking spices, nuts, some cedar. There's almost like some confectionery going on, which could be playing off the baking spices. You can tell that not only has age, mild age. It's not anything like 20 plus years or anything crazy, but it's got wonderful age to the tobacco, and there's a unique characteristic which could be the Mexican Sumatra, or it could be those binder or the fillers in it. But it has this unique aroma that I'm getting as I'm retrohaling it, and as it's just kind of sitting on my palate. That is, it makes you want to go back for more, right? It's getting my salivation going, and I'm ready to go back for another.
Right, that salivation. Yeah. But you explained the profile absolutely beautifully. I mean, you nailed every single high point on there. The baking spices, the nuts, and if I had to dive into what it is, it's like roasted hazelnuts, almonds, and the sweetness to me. One of the times I took a puff and I was like, wow, this tastes like marzipan. Just not as sweet, right? But definitely that confectionery, right? Like the sugary sweetness combined, like almond and sugar paste, right? That's basically what marzipan is. I've smoked probably 60 of those Robustos in the past month and a half.
I'm really excited to see the difference.
And I've really underestimated for TP. I had, I think, 10 boxes, which really isn't a lot because they're 10 counts, right? But I think I was down to 2 by the end of the second day. Multiple people, they placed orders. Luckily, the show, I know a lot of people complained that it's nothing compared to, well, I won't say nothing, but it was a little bit slower compared to last year. But overall, really good. And a lot of people came back and like, he's like, hey man, I know I like grabbed the sample, but like, you mind if I grab one more?
Yeah. Was this the first year that you had your own booth at TPE?
No, TPE I've always done. No, TPE I've always done combos, whether it's multiple brands or I typically have my good friend Jonathan Fine from J London.
Yep.
Like he usually.
But was this the first time you had SOMM represented?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm thinking back to PCA. You didn't. I don't think you.
No, I didn't at all.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a different arrangement where I just didn't do it. But I'll do it for TP. My goal for this year is just it's going to be 50 accounts. That's what it's going to be capped at. And if these follow-ups from TP actually work out, I might end up opening 3 to 5 accounts at PCA, and that'll be it for the year. So. Yeah. I might be at a point and, put the famous Fuente sign that just says no new accounts.
Hey, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good problem to have because you don't want to stretch yourself and start to affect quality where the cigars that you're putting out don't represent you, the brand, and ultimately the experience that you want to have the consumer have at the end of the day. You're not trying to blow up too quickly where either you're back ordered forever and then people get frustrated, or the quality drops and now you're not putting out something that speaks to the SOMM brand. It
requires, luckily, like I'm ahead of the game when it comes to the hair side, so I can't really lose any more hair. But the logistics side of it is infuriating at times.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
For example, the shipment of the new Corona Gordas just arrived today, so like, yay, it's finally here. But transit took almost 10 days, like if you count the weekends. So yeah, almost like 5 working days plus the weekends, and then here we are.
I've had many a gray hairs due to customs and holding blends that were supposed to arrive, and then now it's 15 days later and I'm just losing my shit because no one can tell you what to do. So I can relate in that regard.
It's very much at this point I'm like, I have a very simple, under quotes, simple way of ordering it. Once it gets to, basically once it lands in the States, I place the following order. So, and I just kind of wait. I want these to be aged for at least 6 months before it releases. So the Toros were actually aged since March of last year, because that's when I was in February, but they were rolled in March after Pro Cigar. And then the Robusto was added probably May or June, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do the same thing with the BDX has the actual like boxing dates even on the new boxes as well. I kind of forgot to do that on the Rioja. I'll do it for the next run. Really, I just blanked.
Because I remember you were hand writing.
Yes.
On the
and
boxes.
Then I was like, okay, cool. Like we're actually going to put this. Actually, let me. Can we pause this just for a split second?
Absolutely,
I got to turn the lights on so we can. Yeah. You guys can actually see me. Lights, camera. Ooh,
there
looks like shiny dome.
So one thing that I admire one of the things that I admire most about you is the breakdowns that you do for each of the blends that you've released so far. And when I say breakdowns, you write basically a book report on the experience of the cigar, and from tasting notes to the smoking experience. Is there anything that you do in terms of a ritual or a pre-game almost as you go to hey, I know I'm going to start to flesh out the experience and the tasting notes of this cigar? Do you rinse your palate out? Do you avoid eating or smoking? What do you get to do to be able to, because you really pick out specific tasting notes, and I know part of that is your wine background and also your experience in cigars in general. But you do a killer job.
I gotta admit, no. Well, it depends. If I'm doing reviews and stuff, I'll have a super simple breakfast, and that breakfast will be something like, oatmeal, super basic, have a little bit of water, skip coffee, and just, go straight into it. I try to do that, especially with blends. I do that as well. Like, I make sure that it's either the first or the second cigar of the day, and I'm just, until I get tired to a point that I'm like, or I let my mind wander, really. It has to be, you kind of have to focus. That's really key. I mean, the way you pick up stuff is, we all have our basic, abilities to perceive flavors, unless you have, some type of, disability from a perception standpoint, right?
Absolutely.
Aside from that, we all have the same tools. Basically, it just comes down to how much training we've undergone. And again, it's super, super fun. I think I talked about it last time as well. Like, you can grab that little book. That's really good. So you have visual cues. You have something you can reference easily, and then it's just focus, 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 right? A lot of it comes back to how adventurous you are as an eater, because we just, we eat food daily. So the easiest way to expand your palate is basically, go out and eat different cuisines.
Yeah.
If you're kind of committed to chicken and potatoes, right, or like chicken and rice, you're going to be at a disadvantage to a guy who's eating Thai food one day, Indian food the other day, like cooks at home, like prepares all these different kind of things, and just kind of broadens his world. And it's ultimately very, very rewarding. This isn't I have no intention to be preachy with this. It's just like, hey, like, you get more value. You do it for the sake of learning rather than like for the end goal. But the good news is the journey itself makes the end goal so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's always one of the things that I talk about with people, like, how do you get better at tasting notes and picking out certain flavors in a cigar? It's like, well, before you take a bite of that cuisine, like, smell it, like, really kind of think about what you're tasting and, not necessarily why you're tasting it, but like, what specific ingredient am I tasting? Or, smell your spices and herbs, or taste them before you put them on. And, it all kind of opens up your experience and your palate and things that you're able to then use as a reference point later, as you're like, man, that's peppery, or that's spicy. Is it black pepper? Is it white pepper? Is it, heat? So there's a lot of different elements that you can get to once you've kind of being able to pick out, spice, cinnamon, and then really, like you were saying, like the nuts. Okay, well, it was more almond, but then there was some sweetness to it. So it was like marzipan almost. And really, every time you send the write-ups on everything, I need to sit down and smoke it while I read it, because I've only just read it, without the cigar, but you do a wonderful job. Good thing you took the hat off, because it would definitely not be fitting, but it's one of the things that I admire most about your dedication to the brand and your passion behind cigars is, I think you would do a write-up like that regardless if it was for your cigar. Yeah. Just because that's just you.
It's a nice little segue, actually, that you kind of opened there. So I wanted to translate that experience to the end consumer as well. So I'm going to add in the future boxes, actually the ones that just arrived. And again, we go back to logistics. I couldn't pull it off in time, so I'll just have to do it after the fact. But I'm going to add QR codes in those boxes. So if you're in a shop and you see the one of the SOMM cigars, whether it's the BDX de Rioja or the New Connecticut, the BDX Blanc that's coming out, you can actually scan it, and then you'll have my little mug telling you, be like, hey, thank you for your interest. Like, this is what you can expect from this particular profile. I have the videos done, so I just need to upload them and create a little QR code. I'll put it top of my list, so it'll probably be done like 12 to 18 months from now.
Really smart.
I'll make sure that works. And then, I think that's a funnel. And you mentioned the rings. That's the first. Pardon me. That's the first time you have them with the rings. If you remember.
Yeah.
I'll actually post a video on my Instagram about. You're a movie buff, right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you a hint, but when I post it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But if you remember the American Psycho scene with the business cards, That's going to be it.
Gotcha. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is the first time you see it.
Wait, no, you have sent that to me, I think.
Oh, I think I did. You're one of the few that I sent it to, and I'm like, oh.
Yep. Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay, so everybody else is going to enjoy it then.
Exactly. No, I think that's such a great idea because in a world where, you're not there to promote your cigars in a brick and mortar, you don't necessarily want to rely on someone to take someone to your brand that may not have recognized it. I imagine maybe it'll be on the box lid when it's open, so it's displayed in
exactly.
QR code on the inside of the box. As soon as you open it,
upper left corner, because again, I'm going with the idea we read left to right.
Yep.
Right. And in the right corner, my other idea was to do suggested pairings.
Great.
And then I work with enough cigar lounges that have spirits, liquor in them, whether it's part of a whether it's a full liquor license or wine and beer. And again, TPE was eye-opening because again, I had this idea of what I'm going to do with it, and then much like a lot of other things that I do with my brand, my customers, which are retailers, right? Like they actually told me what I want. So rather than me make the mistake of like, I'm telling you what you need, I listened to them. And the first question was, hey, I have a bar. Can you actually do this like with my menu? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Make it the same format, 30 seconds. You look at it and, they might want to highlight the bourbons or something else. And like, we'll make it. So about, second day in, I got, and for the first request, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. And then probably another 5 or 6 lounges asked me the same thing. And I'm like, oh, like I'm definitely going around this the wrong way. Yeah, it requires a little bit more effort, but it's worth it. Like that's part of the experience. The fact that you can tailor it to someone's needs. I think it was lounge 6 or 7 that was like, can we put this around the bar? And I go, yeah, you can put it in the restroom if you want. And his partner, I'm assuming his wife, was next to him, and she goes, well, what about the ladies' restroom? And I just fired again without thinking. It was just locked and loaded. I go, yeah, you put it right above the toilet paper so they have something to do. And I started laughing, and I'm like, whoops, maybe should have. It was funny. You got to laugh. That's all we can ask for. But yeah, it was I like it. I like the fact that I had a clear vision and idea how I'm going to execute, and then before I even started executing it, the market told me, hey, you're wrong. Like, you should do it this way.
I mean, that's
which is great,
can't ask
right?
for better feedback. Yeah, that's the best kind of feedback right there.
The alternative solution to that is I dump a bunch of time and money and effort into this, and then go back to like, well, I didn't even do any customer development.
Yep. Oh, now I have to go back and redo it all, and kind of start from scratch when, that's actually huge, because then, you're not scrambling to figure out maybe what went wrong or what you need to do to improve. But I love the QR code because I think, walking down a humidor, that pops, right? No one else has a QR code, and you're like, what is this? Then your beautiful face pops up and, it greets them and thanks them and explains it. And then you're like, yeah, I'd love to try it. And
the funny part is really now that with those 2 cigars and the third one that's coming, there's a nice little cohesion. It looks really, really beautiful on the shelf. That was funny. So the rings are upgraded compared to the BDX, and the next BDX, not this run, but the following one, is going to have basically the same type of level of quality to it. And you can see, I'm going to take it off. I mean, you can't really see it over the video, but I suggest you tried it in the shop. It's embossed, engraved. There's a silver gradient that goes from SOMM top all the way to the bottom. Basically, it's even got a water. It's even got.
You have a watermark on there?
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'll sit here and find it.
Yeah, but no, I really wanted to, and this translates it well. And it was funny. We were standing in a humidor. Wow, that actually looks really good.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. Like, seriously, that looks really, really good. We're in a humidor, so I go, yeah, I'm going to upgrade the SOMM BDX ones, blah, blah, blah. And the owner goes, I don't think you should. Like, people don't really care. Like, it's not that important. And I go, well, I care about it. Like, I think it's part of the tactile sensation. Visually, it looks better. And he's like, I think it's a waste of money. Like, you should just stick to whatever you have there. Not even 3 seconds later, a guy walks into the humidor, looks at the Rioja and goes, oh, that looks really nice. Grabs it in front of him. He's like, wow, I love the ring, and walks out. He looks at me, he's like, how much did you pay the guy? Like, did you give him...
exactly. Is that a plant?
I was like, I didn't do anything. I wasn't even ready for that.
No, I love, the tactile feel on it. There's cigars that I've had before where the bands just feel like paper mache or just really low quality. And so, it's one of those, like, you eat with your eyes first, right? So if you have the perception of it being cheap or not of high quality, that could, whether you mean to or not, be transferred to the product itself. And so all layers need to be to standard.
I love the comparison where it was, you spent this time making a beautiful ossobuco, right? Cooking it for multiple hours, preparing it. Then you served it on a beautiful plate and gave someone a plastic spoon.
Exactly.
And that was it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because you're not gonna. Yeah, I like that.
Again, might be the greatest ossobuco, but still doesn't change the fact that your fingers are gonna touch what is ultimately a plastic spoon.
Exactly. We're trying to. Well, hopefully you're not cutting ossobuco with a knife, but.
No, but and I love the lighters. I mean, you guys got them. This is. Oh. Sorry. On that note, did I jump the gun there?
No, you didn't. But we'll stick around to the end here. But we are going to be giving away one of the SOMM lighters. Vlad, you have one. I don't have one quite yet. I haven't shipped one myself. But it's a soft flame and a butane or a torch lighter. Absolutely gorgeous. We've got the blue ones. I think that's the black one you've got in your hand there, right?
So funnily enough, all the blue ones sold out at TP, so I have the black ones and the gold ones, which is why I actually gave away my original blue one, my first sample. Someone really fell in love with it. They were like, can I buy it? And I'm like, no, I'll give you one. And then they go, oh, I really like the blue one. All right, here we go. We'll exchange it. Like, you can grab it.
There you go.
But no, it's really beautiful. So as you can see, I'm sitting on the patio, which is kind of where this came from. I'm actually sitting, my fire pit is right here. Being last year around June, we had this massive heat wave where it was like 110, 120, in that range. So PCA finishes, it's been a rough couple of weeks before that, just leading up to it. And I finally sit down, I plop myself, and I'm like, oh. I grab my soft flame. And again, Vegas does get windy. You don't really think about that often, but it is a valley, right? And there's really nothing protecting you. So when it starts blowing, when the wind starts blowing, it's there. Now, don't tell my insurance agent, and I swear I never do this. I will never leave a torch lighter outside on the fire pit, especially now when it's 110, 120 degrees. That's just asking for your premiums and your house to go up.
Yep.
So, I sit down and plop. I'm like super comfortable. I forget what I was doing. I fired up my laptop for something. I try to light it. A gust of wind goes out. I'm like, all right. So I get up, go in the corner, and I'm trying to light it. And at this point, now I'm getting frustrated, right? Not only was I super comfortable, and now I'm lazy to go inside the house, get a torch, and come back, but I'm getting frustrated. And I'm a big believer that the best inventions come from annoyance and laziness.
I can see that. I can believe in that.
I go, all right, now I'm going to go and find a solution to this. So I get really annoyed. I go and start looking for other options, and then I think the cheapest one I could find was like $50-something or like $70, something like that. And I'm like, and then, or $2,000 if you're DuPont, but I think I could find an easier solution than that.
Yeah.
So literally, while still being, annoyed from the whole experience, I go and start sourcing them. And I sourced about eight different models, and then I played around with this one, and I loved it. Right, between the fact that it's a soft and dual flame, which basically means I don't have to get off my ass. Right, It works perfectly. It's precise. My key points are kind of easy, It had to be a dual flame, soft flame plus torch. Torch had to be a single torch for precision purposes. And I want to preface this, that dual torch, triple torch, quad torch, right? Like you can use whatever you want. Just from a precision standpoint, I like using a single torch because I can laser it.
Yeah.
And then it had to be slim enough to fit inside your little jean pocket on the side. You know which one I'm talking about? The one that
like
nobody
the
really
coin
knows.
pocket or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. So to fit in there, man, it had to be windproof or at least wind resistant. And it kind of met all the goals. Over time, like once we actually got them, I've also learned that apparently they're water resistant. One of them went through a washing machine. And again, my sample size is 1. So 1 out of 1, that's 100% success rate. So
sounds good to me.
Talk about statistics.
No, don't test it ever again. But hey, you know what?
Exactly. We just want to keep that, body of research compelling. What else? I think someone told me that they got through TSA with it, which again I don't endorse. But they got stopped and basically went, "Sir, you can't take a torch," and the guy goes, "But officer, it's a soft flame.
It's a Bic, it's just a fancy
and I laugh,
Bic."
and I'm like,
tell them.
Great. So the other main point was I have envisioned this as an event-only item, kind of like, hey, here's a piece of Vlad's frustration to take with you in this solution. So we brought some stuff in late November, after Thanksgiving actually, and a couple of shops reached out and they ended up asking, like, can we actually sell these? And I'm like, yeah, let me just run this like super sophisticated pricing model. So I sat down, I looked at it and I go, all right, this is how the lighter looks. This is how it feels. This is what I think it's worth. If I lost it, would I be upset? And how much? And taking all those super important data points into account, I landed on $25. So I basically made it to a point where you can have one in your car, your golf bag, whatever, your backpack. And if you lose it, you don't get upset. But the best part, why do we use Zycar? Why do a lot of us use this Zycar cutter? Because it works.
Yeah.
And that's really what I wanted to do. And it's not expensive, right? Like, doesn't break the bank.
Nope.
Your biggest issue with this is if you lose it. That's like the number one way of like needing a new one. So that's it. It's supposed to work. Someone actually reached out and asked me, they're like, can we change the flint? I'm like, all right. So I asked another buddy, he disassembled it. Then I go, man, it's $25. Like, if it dies in 2 years from now, like, just buy another one. Like, reach out, I'll send you one.
You're right. You burn 100 cigars with it. It's paid for itself.
The other thing is actually, I was actually surprised how useful the tank is. So this goes, this lighter can go anywhere from like 8 to 12 cigars.
Oh, that's great. That's been my biggest issue with thin lighters, where they're supposed to be sleek and something you carry around. You get like 2 cigars max, or at least my experience with the ones that I've used before. And this will be the first dual flame that I have, and I'm excited for it because there's been times where I'm like, I wish I had a soft flame right now, and I don't. I'm not getting a Bic, or I don't have it, and I'm very excited to get one.
By the way, the bottom actually has a keychain ring, like you can.
Oh yeah, I see it.
So I've been using it for so long, I didn't notice. Someone at TP told me to be like, "Oh wow, there's a really cool keychain ring on the bottom," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yep, that was in. Yep, I meant to have that on there. Thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. First to notice that.
That was great. So I was like, "Yeah, oh yeah, totally." Like, we really, really thought about this.
Well, I do have a question here, and I'm gonna toss it to you, and I think you're gonna hit it with a slam run. You're gonna hit a home run. So for someone who hasn't smoked the Rioja, how would you describe this cigar in terms of, maybe a comparison to other cigars, or if maybe you enjoy X, whether it doesn't have to be a cigar, it could be coffee, bourbon, wine, whatever. then you think, granted, I think this cigar is approachable for anyone, but if you had to say something specific about it, for someone who hasn't smoked it yet.
So I would, honestly, I feel confident enough in this cigar and how approachable it is that if you've never smoked a cigar, this would actually be a pretty welcoming one to the cigar world. That upfront sweetness, especially in that 5x54 Robusto that you guys are going to send in the box. I mean, I would have... So you're going to light it up. You're going to get a ton of creaminess. And it's going to go creaminess, vanilla, cedar, oak. And then right after that first puff is done, that's going to be your intro right off the bat. And it's not going to be a gentle slope like this. No, it's just going to start. In the mid palate, right? So if you think of as a linear progression, right? This is going to be your front. Then mid palate, once it hits your tongue and starts going towards the back of your throat. In the mid palate, that's where you're going to get the nuts, right? So walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts. And to me, the dominant two are going to be roasted hazelnuts and roasted almonds. Really just and again, I said that marzipan primarily. It's not really marzipan, but it is that innate sweetness that underlines the blend. And then on the finish, you'll get a combination of baking spices. And when I say baking spices, I mean primarily cinnamon, nutmeg, star anise, and like cloves or allspice, somewhere in that.
Yeah, I think of like warming spices when I think baking spices.
It's warming, and I don't want to call it bitterness is not the right word, but there's a little, when you put too much cinnamon, then it starts turning bitter, but you definitely get like woody notes combined with spices, and that was not a very eloquent way of describing that.
Yeah, no, I know it's like a cinnamon stick where you get that like
cinnamon
bark
stick. There we
aspect
go.
to it.
Yeah, like cinnamon, right? Like powdered cinnamon versus cinnamon stick in a tea. Like this is closer to cinnamon stick. So very, 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 very welcoming. It's medium bodied, medium strength. And even then, depending on if you've never smoked a cigar, this is going to be very approachable for you. And if you are someone who smokes regularly, this will be just right, regardless of where you fall in the spectrum of like fullness. And then flavor wise, which a lot of people when they first try out struggle, right? Like trying to figure out what the flavors are. This is a solid full, right? So very clear, very precise, very easy. To differentiate what they are. Clarity. It offers clarity in terms of the profile.
Yeah, I think that's a good way, because there's some cigars where it just stands out, whether it's just one tasting note that it's just like, this is chocolate or this is cinnamon, or it could be a cigar that there are multiple tasting notes that stand out. There are some cigars that I smoke that I'm like, this is a good cigar, but I couldn't tell you what I'm smoking, right? It's just a good cigar. It's good tobacco. For me, the baking spices really stand out in this cigar. I love the BDX. If I'm choosing between two cigars to give someone who hasn't had a cigar for the first time, it's going to be this blend, and for all the reasons that you've stated there.
BDX is right. We as humans are wired towards sweetness. In our brain, in our monkey brain, it says, "Hey, this is potential source of energy, like easily digestible." So we're like, "Oh, sweetness, like give us all the sugar." Obviously, that's not really apparent in cigars, but like, it helps bridge that little gap and say, hey, this is very approachable. While you do have a ton of sweetness in the BDX, it's a different type of sweetness. You'll get that milk chocolate, and definitely on the darker side of the overall profile. So you'll have milk chocolate from the Viso Jalapa. You'll have plums, raisins from the Honor Broadleaf, but definitely, in that darker profile, which is not as approachable. But if you are somewhat of an experienced cigar smoker, or even if you want to veer towards the Maduro side of the profiles, I think that really shines. And funnily enough, the 6x60, the box burst, which you guys keep nailing it when it comes to the most interesting
the sizes that we're getting. Yep.
Yeah, the 6x60, and we talked about that too. I did not expect it to be the most popular size for one. Yeah. And B, the size that I actually truly love the most. Now that I have the Corona Gorda coming, I'm falling a little
that might be.
I'm a Corona Gorda fan, but the 6x60, because of that extra full leaf of Honduran broadleaf, like truly shines.
And that's the one thing, Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, for the longest time, I avoided larger ring gauge cigars just because I love Corona Gordas. I love smaller ring gauge size. I enjoy the way that they smoke, the way that they feel as I'm smoking it. But to your point, I've now kind of not shied away from those larger ring gauges because of a situation like you just described with BDX, where you were able to add in a full leaf of Hunter and broadleaf into it, and it completely changed the overall profile of. And it's one of those now that I'm like, all right, I need to be more open-minded for some of these larger ring gauges cigars, especially when the person blending the cigar is intentional in the blend, and it's not just a exaggerated version of a Robusto.
It's funny because my openness to the 6x60s really came around a couple years back. I smoked a Davidoff Gusto, right, in a 6x60.
Yep.
And as much as I wanted to hate that size, it was the best out of the three. Like, really. And I will happily debate with anybody who wants to debate me on that. I think it was the best size out of the three. Like, happily. I have the notes locked and loaded in my Google Keeps, like, comparisons.
I'll pull it back up and throw it at him.
I got the receipts on, like, it's ready. But no, really, I think there's a lot more room to hide, but also it's if you want to highlight stuff, it ends up being a lot more interesting. Plus, next time I go to Serbia, so they have a limit if you can only bring 10 cigars, I'm going to grab 10 9x90s. Yeah.
Just chop them up or something?
No. I'm just going to bring them in like full boxes, 10 9x90s. Technically, I'm bringing, whatever it is, 18 pounds of tobacco at that point.
Yeah, whatever the limit is.
Like, hey, I followed, I was technically correct.
Yeah, bring in a whole pilon and just be like, well, it's just one cigar, Sure, it's however many pounds. Well, man, thank you for joining us. This is great. I appreciate you copping on after hours. It's fun. I haven't had a drink on a podcast in a while because we normally shoot these at like 10 a.m., and which I could drink, but I don't necessarily want to go back to work after. Yeah, well, okay. If you haven't yet, Vlad, grab you some Madeira and smoke this. It is amazing together. But I want to do a giveaway. We are going to do a giveaway of the blue SOMM lighter. So I want to know in the comments below, what is your favorite tasting note in a cigar? We're going to select from the entries random there, so you don't have to tell us what ours is. I want to know what yours is, your favorite tasting note in a cigar. We're going to select randomly from the winner to send out a blue SOMM lighter. But don't, if you didn't win, don't worry. We are going to have a few of these on our site here in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. If you don't win, you'll be able to get one off of our website. Vlad, as always, amazing release. It is great to have you on. We'll have you back on when the Connecticut releases. And thank you for being able to offer us the 5x54 blend. I'm so excited to smoke it. We're both smoked the Toro today. Any final words? If anyone's listening who doesn't know you, where can they find you on social media? Yeah,
just thank you guys for the support. Thank you for listening to the podcast. May the odds forever be in your favor. I think that's how it goes in Hunger Games, right?
Yep.
And then, I'm doing on social media. You can find me at Vlad the SOMM. I've intentionally kept it as a personal profile. I have been in, I think my Instagram jail sentence ends on 2/15.
All right.
So you can expect some educational videos either this week or the following. Funnily enough, and I'll actually tell a funny little story here. There's a previous set of videos that kind of dives into cuts and how straight cut versus V cut versus punch changes your perception. Mm-hmm. And on the punch cut, I actually used the words "spent bullet." And I posted it, instantly got flagged. I think I got flagged within like 7 seconds of actually getting posted. So I'm like, that'll do it. So if you go back to that video and you actually look at it, you'll see that it's like, I personally think did a very good job. If Ramsey was here, if you look at it, you could probably notice like exactly where I spliced it, but it says spent pacing. I post that video, right? And the very next day, I post a random box picture of the BDX and say, hey, super excited about, having the Corona Gorda size, join the portfolio or something along those lines. Like, looking forward to seeing it at TP. They got flagged for tobacco sales. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I appealed it, right? There's better chance of me landing on Mars than hearing from someone.
Very much.
So I go, okay, whatever. So I post some random video. And I kid you not, I think I got like 3 people. The reach was 3 people over like a whole day. And I'm like, this is great.
Yep.
So
welcome to the shadow realm.
Yeah, I'm basically said, hey, you know what? Until I figure out that, I'm off the list, I'm gonna go. And I'm Serbian, so I'm used to being on different kinds of lists. I basically said,
Sir, you've been traveling a lot. Can you please explain this?
I mean, just before I applied for my U.S. visa back in 2015, I went to Cuba. So that was an interesting conversation.
So we've got your passport and your travel. Can you please explain these trips here?
Exactly. It was a fun. You have to give him I think I had to give him a full breakdown of all my travel in the past 7 years. So I was like, I don't remember. Let me go back through 7 emails that I have.
Can you tell me where I traveled and I can tell you why I was there? Because I won't be able to recall everything.
You guys know this, like, it's like taxes. It'd be like, how much do I owe? It's a secret.
I don't know. You know how much I owe, but if I don't tell you how much I owe correctly, then I'm going to get in trouble.
Exactly.
Thanks.
May the odds be in your favor, guys, and we'll do some more educational videos, and I'll be back with the BDX Blanc. Again, rather than call it Connecticut, it'll just be Bordeaux White.
Love it.
Right, which is, again, goes back to the wine experience and the French wine region. And I do have to say that the packaging is something, to my knowledge, and I got to preface this to my knowledge, I think there's nothing like it on the U.S. market at the moment. So,
cool. Well, I'm excited. You'll have to send me some sneak peeks.
So,
well, we look forward to that. But everyone, once again, thank you, Vlad, for tuning in. Expect the Vlad SOMM Rioja in some of your boxes coming up here in March. We still have a little bit away, but we are excited to be able to bring in that Robusto size. Thank you again, Vlad. Until next time, everyone.
To you guys. They should be in the warehouse.
You did. I know. You best believe I'm going to send myself one before they make the boxes, because I'm really excited to smoke that Robusto size. So thank you again. Until next time, everyone. Happy smoking.
Thanks again, guys. Have a great night.